Welcome to Tuesday's edition of COVID-19. Korea's daily tally is on the rise again amid preparations for the launch of broader public inoculations this coming Thursday. And new findings show greater public support for tougher COVID-19 prevention measures. Now, we have details on that later on in the program. Let's start now with the broader pandemic coverage with our Kwon Soa. Now, Soa, what is the latest here on the local front?
Sunny, the one-day decline in COVID-19 infections we saw yesterday was just temporary as the number bounced back to above 400 this Tuesday with 447 infections reported as of 12 a.m. And with that, also domestic transmissions are now standing at above 400. In total, Korea's accumulated figure of COVID-19 cases stands at 102,582, and with 3 additional deaths, the death toll at 1,729. Now, in the past week, we had infections hovering at around the mid-300s to the low 500s, with the average at around the 400s. And this Tuesday, the capital Seoul reported the highest number of infections with 145, followed by 117 in Gyeonggi-do province and 43 cases down in Busan. Let's also get a check on the vaccination updates. We've got over 822,000 people who got their first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine and more than 6,100 who already received their second shot.
Right. Now, so I hear Korea has joined, the World Health Organization and other world leaders in a call for a pandemic treaty.
Right. South Korean President Moon Jae-in was one of the 23 world leaders who, together with the World Health Organization, called on the need for an international treaty to prepare for future health emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in a joint opinion article, they underlined that not a single government or even multilateral agency can address major health emergencies alone. And meanwhile, ahead of Tuesday's release of a WHO report by a team of scientists that investigated the origin of the coronavirus in China's Wuhan, a draft copy of the report showed that transmissions from bats to another animal to humans was the most likely scenario. But experts say that the outbreak did not begin at a seafood market in Wuhan, but has already been circulating in the city before. So let's hope for more clearer answers on why the world is dealing with over 128 million infections and why the COVID-19 virus had killed 2.8 million people so far. Now, for a closer look at the figures, we have now 20 countries that have at least 1.5 million infections, with Indonesia just hitting that milestone, and the U.S. now has surpassed 31 million cases in total. Also, what's a concern is resurgences of fatalities, especially in Brazil here, with over 314,000 deaths. Last week, Brazil's fatalities related to COVID-19 accounted for almost 27% of global COVID-19 deaths. And those are the updates I have for now, but I'll be back in a bit after the government briefing. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Soa, thank you for that. Meanwhile, authorities here have disclosed results of a month-long study into post-inoculation reactions. For more on this, I have Lee Kyung-eun here in the studio with me. Welcome, Kyung-eun.
Hi, Sunny.
Right then, Kyung-eun, let's begin with the findings.
Well, first of all, the number of people reporting side effects is extremely small. The KDCA said that only about 1.3% of all vaccine recipients reported side effects. Most cases were mild symptoms like fever, headaches, and chills, which experts say are natural immune reactions. Around half of the cases were reported on the day of the inoculation, while 42% were experienced on the day after. There were also a few outliers, including one recipient who reported side effects some 3 weeks after getting the jab. Data also shows female and younger recipients were slightly more prone to side effects, as well as those who were given the AstraZeneca vaccine at a rate of 14 for every 1,000 vaccinations compared to 4 out of 1,000 among Pfizer recipients.
I see. And Kyung-eun, what is the latest with regard to severe adverse responses as shared by a local panel of experts?
Well, they investigated 13 cases of severe side effects, which include cases of convulsion and hospitalizations at intensive care unit. 2/3 of those cases were reported within 24 hours following the inoculations. 9 of them had underlying health conditions, including brain activity disorders, brain hemorrhaging, and cancer. But of those 13 cases, the committee confirmed that only one case had a direct link with the vaccines.
This was a case of febrile convulsion. The patient in question developed a fever after being inoculated, followed by a convulsion. We acknowledge that there was a causal relationship between this case and the vaccine.
The team also investigated 16 post-inoculation deaths, all involving recipients with underlying health conditions. It conclusively ruled out vaccines as the cause of 14 of those cases, while the remaining 2 are still being investigated.
I see. And Kyung-won, I hear the panel is also keeping a close eye on reports of anaphylaxis.
Yes, anaphylaxis is a severe allergic reaction that can cause shocks and potentially lead to death. The panel looked at 5 such cases and confirmed that only one case was caused by the vaccine. Take a listen.
Based on temporal factors and the reported symptoms, the case appears to have a strong link to the vaccine. But since there were no symptoms like a drop in blood pressure, this particular case cannot be categorized as an occurrence of anaphylactic shock.
Anaphylaxis usually occurs within 5 to 30 minutes, giving medical workers a predictable time window to provide emergency medical aid at the vaccination center. Those with anaphylaxis quickly recover without any complications if they're given proper medical treatment.
Right. One final question before you go, Kyung-won. Now, starting on Thursday, those aged 75 and above will receive their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. What are some factors to keep in mind?
Well, those who have chronic illnesses tend to be in this age group, and many are wondering if it is safe to get a vaccine. And experts say yes, it is, but doctors will make the final call depending on their health conditions on the day of the vaccination. Experts say even those with high blood pressure are safe to get their shots, despite concerns that the vaccine could aggravate their condition.
Fever is a common side effect, but older adults are less likely to experience such symptoms. Fevers can also trigger hypertension, but if you're on blood pressure medication and are taking them regularly, the chance of that occurring is also very low.
Also, those who had experienced side effects from a flu shot can also receive their jabs if those were mild post-inoculation symptoms like muscle pain or fever. Even if they had a history of anaphylaxis, they still have a chance if they know exactly what they're allergic to and what's contained in the COVID-19 vaccine.
In the case of the flu vaccine, people with egg allergies cannot get the shot, but they won't have any problems with COVID-19 vaccines which do not contain any egg proteins.
Experts advise older adults not to do extreme workouts post-inoculation and that they keep the administered area clean. They also say recipients can take painkillers to ease symptoms of side effects.
All right, Kyung-won, as always, thank you very much for that coverage.
My pleasure.
Right, up next, we are poised to join the regular briefing on the COVID-19 situation here on the local front for this Tuesday. Now, as part of tighter COVID-19 containment efforts, the consumption of food and beverages will only be allowed at places of dining and drinking, such as restaurants, cafes and bars. Now, in other words, no eating is permitted at movie theatres, sports stadiums, cram schools and other venues. And starting this Sunday, violators face a fine of 100,000 won. Now, we are still waiting for the briefing to commence, so let's take a look at Korea's social distancing guidelines in place until the 11th of April. The Greater Seoul area faces level 2 guidelines, while most other regions of the country are under level 1.5. The briefing is about to start. We'll come back to you afterwards.
Let us now begin our regular briefing on the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea for March 30th, Tuesday. As of today midnight, we have a total of 429 new local infections and 18 new imported cases. The total caseload now stands at 102,582. And yesterday we had 84,830 tests conducted. And at the makeshift testing centers in the metropolitan area, we carried out about 37,161 tests, confirming 56 confirmed cases. And we also have 439 more people being discharged, while 6,290 still remain in quarantine. And we have 2 more patients with critical or severe conditions with a total of 102. We had 3 additional fatalities. I extend my deepest condolences to the deceased and the members of the bereaved families. And here are our recent major local clusters in the metropolitan area. In Seoul's Gurogu district, in relation to a sauna, we identified the first index case on the 25th of March. We have 16 additional cases, and a total of 17 cases have been confirmed to date. And in Seoul's Gwanagu district, we have the workplace, which is also linked to a group in Incheon. We have a total of 61 total cases being confirmed to date. And in Seoul's Seochogu district, we have the telemarketing firm, and we have the first index case being identified on the 27th. We have 13 additional cases, raising the total to 14. And in Incheon City, Seogu, in relation to a family gathering there, we also identified the first index case on the 26th of March, and we have 12 additional cases being confirmed, and a total of 13 cases have been confirmed to date. And in Gyeonggi-do Province, Suwon City, in relation to a university hospital, we identified the first index case on the 22nd, and we have 13 additional cases, raising the total to 14. And in Gyeonggi-do Province, Seongnam City, in relation to a business consulting firm, we identified the first index case on the 23rd. We identified 18 additional cases, and a total of 19 have been confirmed to date. And moving on to Chungcheong Province. In Daejeon Seogu district, in relation to a pub, we identified 9 additional cases, and a total of 26 people have been confirmed to date. And in Chungnam, in relation to a kindergarten in Asan City, we identified additional cases of 8, and a total of 9 have been confirmed to date. And in Chungbuk Jungpyeonggun district, in relation to foreign students, we identified additional cases of 10. We have also identified a total of 11 cases to date. And moving on to the Honam province. In Jeonbuk, Jeonju City, in relation to a farm, we identified the first index case on the 21st. An additional of 18 people have been confirmed, and a total of 13 have been confirmed to date. And in Jeonbuk, Wanjugun district, in relation to a pharmaceutical company, we have 9 additional cases being confirmed. A total of 39 have been confirmed to date. And moving on to Gyeongsangbuk-do province. In Daegu, in relation to a bathhouse in Donggu district, we identified 5 additional cases, and a total of 27 have been confirmed to date. And moving to Gyeongsangnam-do province, in Busan, in relation to a singing pub, we identified additional cases. We have carried out massive testing, and 19 additional cases have been confirmed, and a total of 90 have been confirmed to date. And in Busan City, Yeonjae-gu district, in relation to a senior welfare facility, we identified 3 additional cases, raising the total to 35. And in Busan City, Haeundae-gu district, in relation to a number 2 church, we identified 5 additional cases, raising the total to 20 to date. Moreover, we have identified cluster infections recently among kindergartens and preschools. So here are some risk factors. Here, starting from this year, we identified 36 related cluster infections, and a total of 635 people have been confirmed to date. And in relation to this, we see that of these cases, we see that 45.5% were infected within the facility, and about 54% were infected outside of these facilities. And major sources of infection were families, also the public use facilities, and these people, including the faculty members and children, have spread the virus to other peers, and it also spread to end transmissions through their family members, and it also had local transmissions into other families as well as other workplaces. And as major risk factors, we see that people people with symptoms came to these facilities on a daily basis, and also they did not comply fully with the mask-wearing protocols, and also they had insufficient amount of ventilation. And to this end, we ask for you to take particular precautions at these facilities and make sure that if you are managers there to prohibit people from coming if they have symptoms, whether they be faculty members or children. Moreover, inside these facilities, when you are having daily activities, you need to also comply everyone to wear a face mask and also wash everyone's hands on a regular basis as well. Moreover, we also ask the parents and our other guardians, if your children has suspected symptoms, please do not let him or her go to these facilities, but rather get tested as soon as possible. In addition, we have some status on the COVID-19 vaccination here in the country. As of March 30th midnight, we have 26,538 additional people receiving their first dose of COVID-19, and the total now stands at 822,448. And the number of second dose recipients stands at 6,151, with 919 additional people receiving them yesterday. And of these first dose recipients, we see that about 3,700 people are newly administered with these shots, and the vaccination rate stands at about 84% right now. And by the target group in the first queue, we see that a total of 180,000 people have administered with the vaccination at the nursing hospitals, and also about 6,100 first responders, and also general hospitals. We have about 31,000 people receiving the COVID-19 vaccines. And we are carrying out the second dose vaccination rollouts at the COVID-19 hospitals, and about 6,700 people have been administered with the doses. And also this is going to be carried out going further. And of these second dose recipients, we see that about 2,200 have been counted as the additional vaccination recipients, and we also have about 20% of the target rate. And as for the post-inoculation adverse responses, here are details. We have a total of 10,485 cases being reported on as of now, and we believe that 10,348 of them are mild and common symptoms, including muscle pain and headache, and we have 105 suspected cases of anaphylaxis and 10 suspected cases of severe cases, including convulsion, and 22 cases of deaths. On a global level, we have seen a stagnant number in the daily tally. However, we are seeing repeated resurgences, and in Europe and Brazil, we are seeing the spread of new variants, which is more contagious, and we are also seeing a speeding up of these infections in Africa as well. Despite the global vaccination program, we are seeing a resurgence of the virus, and we are also seeing the need to tighten the quarantine measures. And the situation here is also very severe here in the country. We are also having a daily tally of 400 range on a daily basis. We are having a difficulty in decreasing this as well. And we have seen that public saunas, indoor spaces, indoor sports facilities, places of worship, as well as other daily venues are being the subject of latest cluster infections here in South Korea. And many of these cluster infections, we have seen that these people have visited these places despite the fact that they had symptoms of COVID-19 and they had regular contact with others, and this has resulted in the spread of the virus throughout the community. Once again, we would like to highlight the following. The COVID-19, considering the COVID-19 nature and the characteristics, we believe that these symptoms are not very peculiar, meaning that if you have sore throat and if you have coughing or if you have a loss of scent or a taste, we ask you to get tested as soon as possible by visiting a nearby screening clinic. Moreover, until you get the final result of your test, please do not go to the public use facilities which are frequented by people, and please refrain from going outside. This week we have the Easter Day coming up. We believe that the Christians is very looking forward to this special day, and we believe and we also feel the same, and we also feel that it is a very valuable day. However, we would like to continue to highlight the fact that all of the quarantine measures should be abided by at places of worship. Moreover, if you have symptoms or if you do not feel good or if you feel sick, please do not go to physical services and please have your remote services at home. Moreover, we will be rolling out our vaccination for the senior citizens starting from April. We believe that this will be a very crucial time in our long tunnel fighting against the COVID-19, and we will also make sure that we carry out these vaccinations in full-fledged. We are seeing a beautiful spring weather. However, despite the beautiful spring weather, we would like to extend our deepest appreciation to all of you who are exerting full efforts to participate in our quarantine measures. We would also like to make sure that we can help the citizens to return to a state of normalcy as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Right, that was Lee Sang-won with Tuesday's afternoon briefing. So what did he have to say?
Let's start with a couple of major outbreaks. First off, in the capital, Seoul, which had the highest number of infections this Tuesday. There were new cases at a telemarketing company as well as a sauna. And in Gyeonggi-do province, new cases linked to a major hospitals and another company. And we also saw quite a large number in Busan. And there, at a nightlife entertainment venue, 19 additional cases have led to a total of 90 infections. And the official also had some words regarding infections at kindergartens and other children's daycare facilities, as there were 36 clusters at such facilities this year. That's a total of 635 infections, and around 45% of transmissions there occurred within the facility, and the rest of the 54% outside of the facility. So in many cases, if one faculty member or a child has the virus and goes to that daycare center, for instance, then the virus spreads within the facility, and then they can transmit it to their family members or other multi-use facilities. That is why the officials stressed that if any of the faculty members have symptoms, or if parents see that their children have suspected COVID-19-like symptoms, they should stay at home and not go to these daycare centers. And of course, get tested for the virus.
Right, of course, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right, also in related news, we are tackling another question today with regard to COVID-19 inoculation efforts. What's in a vial of a COVID-19 vaccine? We have that answer in this report.
Each tube of these vaccines, about the size of a little finger, is the most powerful weapon we have in the fight against the pandemic. So what exactly is contained in these small vials? Let's break down the composition of the two vaccines that are currently available in Korea. Pfizer vaccines contain three major ingredients: messenger RNA containing information on the spike proteins of the coronavirus, lipids that encase the mRNA, and electrolytes that act as a stabilizer. A closer look at the list of Pfizer vaccine ingredients reveals the presence of polyethylene glycol, or PEG, which has been linked to allergic reactions. But does it imply that PEG is potentially dangerous?
Polyethylene glycol, or PEG, has been widely used in pharmaceutical and cosmetic industry. It is one of few FDA-approved ingredients that can be used in nanoparticle formulation to stabilize the particle. It acts like a surfactant to reduce the surface tension of particle and helps to maintain its original size.
PEG is widely used in the pharmaceutical industry and is contained in many household products like toothpaste and skin lotion. However, those with PEG allergy should consult with their doctors before getting a vaccine. As for AstraZeneca's vaccine, its key ingredient is an adenovirus that functions as a vector to trigger the body's immune system, with the remaining components serving as passive ingredients to keep the vaccine stable.
아데노바이러스라고 하는 자연에 있는 바이러스를 변형을 시켜서 사용합니다. 굉장히 흔한 바이러스인데 우리 몸에 들어가면은 이 아데노바이러스를 퇴치하기 위한 면역 작용이 시작이 됩니다. 그런 과정에서 일부 사람들한테서는 열하고 통증이 느껴지는 아주 일반적인 그 면역 작용의 그 부작용입니다.
AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines both contain polysorbate, a type of harmless sorbitol that helps the body to modulate its immune response.
인체 유해성이 없다는 사실이 확인된 안전한 계면활성제고 바이러스 성분이 안정적으로 물속에 녹아들어가도록 만들어주는 계면활성제 성분과 전해질 성분이 아주 극미량으로 들어있습니다. 백신의 유효 성분 이외에 다른 화학물질에 의한 그 부작용은 걱정할 이유가 전혀 없고요.
A quick search of polysorbate reveals that it's contained in more than 4,000 household items, including cosmetics, personal care products, and over-the-counter drugs. But those with a history of polysorbate allergies should take precautions nonetheless. Reports of post-inoculation blood clots also triggered a global scare regarding the safety of AstraZeneca vaccines. Could they have been caused by any specific ingredients contained within the vaccines?
아스트라제네카 백신에 혈전을 만드는 물질은 없어요. 물질은 없지만 후속적으로 과다한 면역 반응에서 오지 않나 하는 그런 게 제일 그 가능성이 있는 가설로 추정이 돼요. 100만 명에 5명의 혈전이 생기는 정도로 지금 측정이 되고 그러면 이상 반응과 효과를 대비했을 때 보면은 너무 우려하지 마시고 접종을 받아라 하는 게 이제 요약될 수 있는 얘기죠.
Governments and experts around the world have reached a universal consensus that vaccines do not contain any harmful ingredients. But do seek to keep yourself in good health condition and follow all guidelines and precautions while you wait to get your vaccine.
저는 맞고 싶어요. 왜냐면 빨리 이 마스크 쓰는 거에서 좀 벗어나고 싶고 답답하니까 지금 상태로는 가장 유효한 방법이니까 어떻게든 맞고 싶네요.
부작용이 있을 수도 있으니까 맞을 차례 됐을 때 바로는 아니고 좀 뒤에 앞에 상황들 보고 저희 나이대에 맞은 사람들 상황들 보고 나서 맞을 것 같아요.
조사 결과 87%의 응답자는 평소 코로나19로 인해 스트레스를 받고 있다고 응답하였습니다. 응답자의 83%는 현재 상황에서 코로나19를 더욱 억제하기 위해서는 방역 수칙을 강화하는 것에 동의를 하였습니다.
The pandemic has entered its second year, and while vaccinations are underway, the outbreak has yet to be contained. So what is the public perception of the status quo? To answer this question and others, I have Professor Chung Ki-seok from Hallym University. Pleasure to have you with us, Professor Chung.
Thank you for having me.
And I also have Professor Lee-Hoon Sang from Yonsei University. Welcome back, Professor Lee.
Thank you for having me today.
Right then, Professor Chung, about 7 out of 10 Koreans are reportedly willing to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Do you believe such a public stance will perhaps accelerate our inoculation drive?
Sure, it's a good figure. 68% agreed to get the vaccine, while 13% disagreed. And the important thing is 19% are in hesitancy. So we need, they say that 70% of whole population is needed to get a vaccination to have herd immunity. But we have a candidate population only 44 million, 18 and above. So in order to get the 70%, we need to get 80% of 44 million. So we have 68% of agreed people. and we need another 12% to get the 80% of whole population. So it is very important to persuade the hesitant people to get the vaccine. In order to do that, the government should propagate the safety of the vaccine, the effectiveness of vaccine, and how do we get a benefit from getting a vaccine, etc.
Right. Now, keeping in mind what Professor Chung has just said, Professor Lee, the main reason behind vaccine support is to protect one's family, and the main reason behind perhaps vaccine opposition is concerns over post-inoculation adverse reactions. Now, having said that, how do you assess the government's efforts thus far to promote public support or public confidence in COVID-19 vaccines?
I think government is doing really a very active role in communicating the needs of the vaccine. But I think at this moment, as Professor Chung said, we really need to have this vaccination process to be rolled out very efficiently. So I think there maybe the government might take a more proactive role in vaccine communications, in form of health communications. And in also, besides some of the official government outlet of communications, maybe using various media, such as social media outlets and other communication channel, to really engage, especially the young people, to feel confidence in the vaccines, and also regarding some of the worry about the adverse events. I think the government should be really proactive in communicating about what they know and what is the given risk, but how there is the safety aspect of the all-risk vaccine that had been shown with current data. So I think there should be even more enhanced efforts for more proactive vaccinations, proactive vaccine communication and health communications. Other aspect is also maybe the government can have some kind of very active vaccine adverse event surveillance mechanism as well, so that if there is any kind of suspected adverse events, the government can find those cases very fastly and also react in the very timely manner to sustain the confidence in the vaccine in the general public.
Of course. Professor Chung, based on your interactions within the medical arena, what are people most concerned about with regard to COVID-19 vaccination, and what are your words of advice?
Yes, whenever I open outpatient clinic, people always ask me that is it safe for me to get the vaccine? Because the effectiveness is well known, it's effective, have efficacy, but the concern is the safety. Is it going to cause a thrombosis or anaphylaxis or some kind of a neurologic deficit, and etc. So, and the other one is most of the patients I'm seeing is having a pulmonary disease, so-called underlying disease. So is it safe to get a vaccine even though I have an underlying disease? So I'm always answering to them that because you have underlying disease, you are a proper candidate for vaccination. But people saw in the television that some deaths from a vaccine, and they always say that one has had an underlying disease. It is not from a vaccine, it's from underlying disease. So people mistake that having an underlying disease is an easier factor for a death after vaccination. So some people are very confused. So I answer that getting the vaccination is not only for yourself, but for your family member or for your neighborhood and for the country. So I always persuade. But I saw one patient, I will never get vaccinated. Why? Never. I don't have any reason why I don't get the vaccine. So I failed to persuade her, but most patients listening to my recommendation.
Right. Professor Lee, aside from vaccine hesitancy, what are some other variables that could determine the speed of our inoculation campaign?
Maybe right now, as we are going into phase to vaccinate more various group of people besides elderly populations and also with underlying disease and medical personnel. We need probably one of the bottleneck might be the outlet of where people can be vaccinated. So it will be really important for the governments to work with the medical communities so that in the primary care facilities and private clinics around the country, besides the public government's public hospital, there should be a safe outlet where the vaccination, inoculation can happen, where it is accessible to the people. And also, it will be important for the private clinicians to be well informed about and well educated, well trained about how to approach the vaccinate people in terms of when they are getting vaccinated. Especially, it will be important because sometimes for people who are relatively young, in the younger ages, sometimes the reaction from the vaccination can be somewhat stronger. So there can be some of the fever and body ache, which can naturally happen, but it might create some of the worries. So it will be important for those private clinicians to respond to those questions well. But besides that, maybe one of the suggestions that had been coming around had been maybe for the people who are getting vaccinated to give them maybe a day or two of a break from the work so that they can rest from the work and also they can be a little bit more or less worrisome about the vaccination process.
Right, which is something that authorities have strongly advised, of course. Professor Lee, one survey shows that Koreans believe their risk of COVID-19 infection is relatively low, but the damage to be incurred in the case of such an infection will be very, very high. What are your thoughts on this?
So I think for Korean people, I think there is a strong notions about public's overall good of the whole of the communities, and also I think maybe this might come from the recent memory of the MERS. We have all seen how it can be harmful for all of the people and to the general society. So maybe it had been maybe helpful for the people to have the general alertness and awareness about importance of this kind of vaccinations and how we have to be prepared together. And also, I think the Korean people, the Korean citizens are in general, I think they are very well educated and informed, which is also very helpful as well. So as long as the governments actually also work well with the general public, I think it will be really helpful aspect.
Right. And keeping what Professor Lee has just said about the understanding of the public perception, that is, of the pandemic, Professor Chung, as a doctor yourself, what changes have you witnessed perhaps in public perception of the pandemic over the past 1 year?
Well, in the first place, we didn't know anything about the disease. All of us were quite afraid of the disease. And there was no hope for development of vaccine or treatment medicine in very near future. But after a year, I can say the positive thing is at least we have a vaccine now. And awareness is very much increased about the disease, and about the social distancing measure, and about the personal hygiene like washing hands or wearing masks and etc. And even people know about the quarantine measures. So it's very educational, happy and educational period for all of us. But there were also some negative changes. Having experienced over 1 year of pandemic, people are becoming less alert on the disease. So we are having just 400, 500, 300 every day, but people are getting less nervous on that. It's a bit good because we have quite stress with the COVID-19. Then it may be a good thing. But if you have stress because of COVID-19, it could be another psychic trauma to you. So they say the COVID blue, COVID red, or even COVID black. So, and I can see some people, my patient, who has depression or some anxiety about the situation, not just because of a disease, but the social situation, becoming less income and etc. So, when you get a herd immunity, or when you have less virulent SARS coronavirus 2, then we have a hope to get back to a normal life.
We do then.
Yeah.
Professor Lee, in another rather intriguing finding, most Koreans appear to support tougher COVID-19 prevention measures. Do you believe this attitude would ultimately help us perhaps contain the third wave?
I think there is some nature of ambivalence in that aspect. While they want tougher measure, usually that is for other people than themselves. But I think compared to European countries and United States, there is somewhat better general acceptance about tougher measures and about the higher willingness for complying to public the quarantine measures. But as Professor Jung also said, I think one of the aspects that we have to still watch out for is the sustainability of this strong measure. Even though they know in mind that this tougher measure is what is necessary, but as the economy of the small business gets hurt, and as sustaining many of the very strict measures become very painful, and also it is now becoming springtime, and people can be a little bit lax in their attitude toward implementing strong quarantine measures themselves. So what is really important is still, I think, so there is the important aspect of watching out for the sustainable aspect, sustainability of these quarantine measures, but also vaccinations is becoming ever more important for that aspect as well.
Right. And Professor Chung, what are your thoughts on our current social distancing measures, which stands at level 2 for the metropolitan area and 1.5 for most of the other regions across the country?
Yeah, I would say that maybe this is the end of third wave, because we have seen a similar amount of confirmed cases for the last 2.5 months. So one peak cannot last that long. It's almost more than 3 months, 4 months and a half. So anyway, if we are facing more than 500 up and down the country for consecutive 1 week, then it's time to upgrade the social distancing level. So 2.5 in capital area, 2.0 in non-capital area. And I like to recommend that the government need to enhance epidemiologic investigation power. So as we all know, about 20% or up to 30% of all confirmed cases are not, we do not know the sources. So that kind of amount can spread silently and make another potential for a big outbreak in coming months or weeks. So another one I like to emphasize is EIS system, which is doing in US CDC. Professor Lee will be knowing very much about that. So epidemic intelligence service. So if we make that kind of system in our country, the manpower will be enhancing by doing that kind of a course. So we have quite a lot to make for this kind of a sustained high level of confirmed cases.
Right. Meanwhile, Professor Lee, during the afternoon briefing on Monday, authorities have spoken about possible disruptions in vaccine supply on a global scale. Do you see this reality as perhaps affecting Korea's vaccine procurement efforts?
It certainly seems so right now because the situation is very dire in European continent. And also because of the situation in India, where the COVID-19 pandemic is still continuing in the higher level. Right now, there is some of the movements to halt some of the outbound export of the vaccines. Especially, there had been some. Right now, we know that there is delay for the shipment of the vaccine from Netherlands to Korea for about 600,000 doses and almost 700,000 doses. And also, it is actually also coming from the aspect that the settlement of India is located in India. So there is that aspect of India also withholding some of the vaccines. So I think it might have some impact on delay, especially in the government's plan for second quarter of the vaccination process. So I think the government should be ready for these situations. There is other vaccine deal with other types of vaccines as well, but the deals are still under discussion. So I think the government should be on the high alert to secure the vaccine as much as possible.
Right.
But it seems like there might be some of the delay that cannot be avoided.
Right. All right. Professor Lee, as always, thank you very much for your thoughts. And Professor Jung, thank you very much for your insights today. Right. Active public participation in COVID-19 containment efforts has reportedly kept the coronavirus from ravaging the country. Now authorities are calling for similar support for its vaccination campaign to ensure complete protection from the pandemic. Thank you for watching.